Hello and welcome to lesson 26 of Perfectly Spoken. Today we are going to look at describing a process. Okay, so it's very exciting. I have lots of things in the lesson today. So let's have a look at some of the content of the class. Right, we will look at some language. So we'll look at describing a process. You're going to listen to me describe a very important process. We will look at language related to this. So for example, the use of the imperative, modal verbs, need to, want to. We'll also look at ordering language when we're describing a process. Okay, so now you just have to listen and relax, and I will describe to you a very important process. Now, you know that I am British, I'm English, I'm from England. So, of course, in England, we drink tea every day, okay? I drink lots of tea. I love tea. It's just, I drink tea in the winter, I drink tea in the summer, I drink tea when it's hot, when it's cold, in the morning, in the afternoon. I love tea. So the process I'm going to explain to you today is how to make a cup of tea. Okay, now before you start, you need one of these. Which is a kettle. A kettle, I don't know if you can see, it's an electric kettle, and inside you have hot water. It makes the water very, very hot. Okay, so if you don't have a kettle, don't worry, you can just heat the water in a saucepan on the hob of your cooker. Okay. Now, in most British homes, we have a kettle. Do you have a kettle in your house? Is it normal to have a kettle? Now, in theory, when you make a real cup of tea, you use a teapot. This is the teapot here. And my grandmother, she always did this, but now people don't do it very often, but in theory, we're going to do it like my grandmother says, and you put just a little bit of hot water into the pot, okay, just to warm the pot. It's very important the pot is warm, especially today because it's quite cold, okay? So you just warm the pot so it's nice and warm. I'm going to now put the water away. Okay, so now we have a nice warm teapot. Now, you can have tea in, this is called a tea bag. You can have it in a tea bag, or you can have tea leaves. Okay, and you just put the tea leaves of the tea bag into the pot. Okay. And then, be careful, don't burn yourself. You pour the hot water into the teapot. Okay, that's enough, I think. Right. And now I'm going to stir it a little bit. Okay. And I put this on. Okay, and now just wait for 1 or 2 minutes so that the flavour from the tea goes into the water. Okay, so you have to stir and wait. dun, dun. Okay, and then I have this fantastic green, perfectly spoken cup. Okay, and here I have milk. Now this milk is cold milk, okay? It's not hot milk, cold milk. And I just put a little bit, just a little bit, I pour a little bit into the cup. Right? In fact, this is a cup or a mug. A mug is just a very big cup. So cups tend to be small. Cup, mug, it's okay. So this is a cup or a mug. And then you pour the tea. Let's have a look. Yes, nice colour, nice smell, very nice. Now I'm going to pour the tea into the cup. Ready? Okay. Now, if you like your tea sweet, I don't, then you can put some sugar in the tea. This is brown sugar, but in fact, white sugar is better. Okay, probably better, but I don't have white sugar. I love brown sugar, but I don't like sugar in tea. No. Now, my tea is very hot, so I'm going to leave my tea here just for 2 or 3 minutes because it's a bit hot. All right, so that was explaining a process, a very simple process. Now we're going to look at some of the language I used when I was explaining the process. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the language. Now, I used these expressions to give a sequence, okay? So I said before you start, you need to heat the water in a kettle, or you need a kettle, or you need hot water, okay? Or first, you boil the water. Then we have the process. Notice here in this simplified process, you've got heat the water, imperative, it must boil. Put the water into a cup with a tea bag. That's another way of doing it. You can make tea in a pot, or you can just directly put the tea bag into the cup. Okay. Stir and wait, pour into a cup. Now, to make this process flow more and sound more fluent, more natural, you can add these little expressions. So before you start, you do this, and then, or after that. So this will give you a nice sequence, okay? And it will make your speaking sound more fluent and more natural, okay? And then, of course, at the end, you are happy and you have your fantastic cup of tea. All right, now let's look at some of the language in more detail. Right, so first of all, in the description, I used different verb forms. So here, for example, I said you need to plus infinitive. So you've got you need to have hot water. He needs to buy tea bags. Here it's in third person singular. So it's need plus to plus infinitive. Okay, and then it's the same with want. Want plus to plus infinitive. For example, I want to make a cup of tea. My sister wants to get a new job. My dog wants to go to the park. My brother wants to come to Barcelona. My mother wants to buy a new car, for example. Okay, the wants to plus infinitive. Okay, also in the description, we see another one which I use two different modal verbs. Now, modal verbs, for example, can and must, they are always used with the infinitive, but with no to. So, for example, you can make the tea with a tea bag. You can make the tea just with a tea bag. Or he can add some sugar. He can add some sugar. So notice, use the can. The can doesn't change form. We looked at this a long time ago in lesson 3, I think was. Okay, so remember, the can doesn't change form. Need and want changes form. They change form in the third person singular. Can, no, it's always the same. Okay, and you must use very hot water. So again, must is the same. It doesn't change form, and it's followed by an infinitive. Okay, and the other verb form I used in the description of the process was imperative. So, for example, boil the water. You just use the infinitive. And in the negative, use don't and the infinitive. It doesn't change. Okay, so for example, boil the water. Don't burn your hands. Don't worry. Be happy and drink your tea. Okay, so yes, you just need the base form of the verb. It's very easy. Okay, all right, so now we're going to look at here. You'll see on the screen, I'm going to put the instructions of describing a process, and you will see some of the language in action. Okay, so just read and listen to the pronunciation. Then you can pause the video and you can repeat it to yourself. Okay, just repeat, repeat, repeat. Okay, and this is a good way to practice the pronunciation, to focus on the grammar, to practice the different verbs, and to get the vocabulary into your head as well. Okay. So here we are. Have a look at the description. Before you start, you need to heat the water. You can use a kettle, or you can heat water on the hob in a saucepan. In most British homes, we have a kettle. Do you have a kettle in your house? In theory, you heat the teapot first, but I don't think many people do this. Okay, so now I'm going to highlight some of the interesting language on in this text. Okay, so you've got before you start. This is a good way to start describing a process. Then you've got two examples here of the modal verbs. You can use, you can heat. We've also got here most. Do you see most? So the word most, we don't just use for superlatives. We also use the word most as in 90% or 80%. Okay, so in most British homes, we have a kettle. All right, and going on. If you want to heat the teapot, put some hot water in it for 2 or 3 minutes. Then put the tea bag into the pot. Of course, if you have tea leaves, this is better. Pour the hot water into the teapot. Don't burn yourself. Stir and wait. Now, if you look here, you can see I've highlighted in blue, if you want to heat the teapot, put some hot water in it. Okay, now the reason I've highlighted this here is an example of zero conditional. Now, in a previous lesson, we looked at the first conditional. Okay, if you go, you will have a good time. Now, here is an example of zero conditional. With zero conditional, we simply use present simple and present simple in both clauses. It's something when it's true. Okay, when it's true, it's a fact. It doesn't change. It's not a condition. Okay, so let's look at some other language in the text. Okay, so here we've got highlighted in red the verbs in imperative. Okay, so you've got put into, pour, don't burn, stir, wait. Okay, notice the verb put into. It's not just put, it's put. You go, wait, sorry. It's put into. And what's the opposite? Do you know? It's take out. Okay, so two phrasal verbs. Put it into the cup, take it out of the cup. Put into, take out. Put into, take out. Okay? All right, let's have a look now. Last bit. Put a little bit of milk, cold milk, into a cup or a mug. A cup is smaller, a mug is bigger. And then pour in the tea. If you like your tea sweet, I don't, then you can put some sugar into the tea. Okay? All right, so there we are. That now you have a description of how to make a cup of tea. And it's a very good way. We actually use descriptions, processes a lot when we're talking. For example, how to turn on the computer, how to use a cash machine or an ATM to get money, how to go on the metro. Okay, so we actually use description of a process a lot. So it's very good to practice. So now I'm going to give you some suggestions about how, what to do to practice talking about a process. Okay, are you ready? One moment. Right, so here are my suggestions. Okay, write down a process. So think, okay, I want to write down exactly how to make a cup of coffee. For me, this would be good because actually, this is true. Actually, I can't make coffee. My coffee is terrible. And in fact, my sister-in-law says my tea is terrible too, because I don't know if you can see the colour. It's she doesn't like my tea. She says, no, Natalie, you put too much milk. So, and some people drink tea not with milk, but with lemon. But in the UK, this is not very common. Usually people have tea with milk. What about you? Do you drink tea? Do you drink coffee? What is the traditional drink in your country? Okay, so write down a process. Also, when you're writing the process, practice using different forms, okay? So you can use must, you can use can, you can use imperative in positive and or affirmative and in negative. You can use need to, want to, okay? So try to expand your language by practicing with all the different types of vocabulary and the types of verb forms we used today. Okay, and finally, my last suggestion, make a cup of tea and explain the process. Okay, so that is my advice about how to practice explaining a process. Now, very important. Let's see. Is it hot? No, it's not hot. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. So now I'm going to drink my cup of tea. Thank you very much for joining me in this lesson, and I will see you in the next class. Okay, take care. Bye.